The Yankees got contributions from really everybody in their 9-4 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates late on Friday afternoon. And let's just get right into it because there are really three key takeaways that I have from this game. And the first is, let's talk about the bottom of the lineup. 6, 7, 8, and 9 in this game. Anthony Volpe, Trent Grisham, Jason Dominguez, and Oswaldo Cabrera combined for 9 hits and were on base 12 different times in this game. That group drove in 7 of the Yankees' 9 runs. They scored 6 of the 9, and they really led the way for New York throughout this game. And that is the big part that I've been really encouraged about, is the contributions throughout the lineup over these last couple games, and obviously in the Milwaukee series. We talked about it after they lost those couple games to the Diamondbacks of how important it was to, yes, home runs are nice. You're going to get that. You're going to get this here with Aaron Judge. Of course, it's another home run. Another day ends in Y, another Aaron Judge home run. We'll talk about that in a second because there's a cool stat and a cool takeaway to really talk about there, and we'll get there in a second. But it's being able to get on base consistently, being able to drive in runs when you get on base, and to be able to get on base in front of home run hitters. And that's what the Yankees have been able to do these last couple of days, and it has gone really, really well for them here. This game was never really in doubt. We'll talk about what happened with the bullpen a little bit later, but the Yankees were up 2-0 in the second, 4-0 heading into the bottom of the third, and by the time the Pirates came up to bat in the fourth inning, it was 7-1. And it really wasn't that close after that. Eventually, it was 9-1 and 9-4. So this was a game that if you had a chance to watch, toward the end of your workday, before maybe you went out on Friday evening, you didn't really have to white knuckle it too much. We'll talk about the little bit of adversity the bullpen faced yet again in the late innings, but the bottom of this lineup really came through well. Anthony Volpe, 3 hits in this game. Oswaldo Cabrera, 3 hits and 4 RBIs. Jason Dominguez got a couple hits in this game. Trent Grisham playing in place of Cody Bellinger, who had a stiff back. Sounds like he might even be back for Saturday's game, but does not look to be a major concern. And then obviously you get Ben Rice, top of the lineup again. On base, 3 of his 6 plate appearances, a hit, 2 walks. Aaron Judge hits a home run again. And we're going to talk about the second point here in a second, but this contribution throughout the lineup, everybody but Jazz Chisholm and Austin Wells had a hit in this game. So you're starting to see 4 Yankees with multi-hits in this game. Dominguez, Cabrera, Volpe, and Paul Goldschmidt, who was back in the lineup after his 1-game off day. That's what you want to see from the Yankees. They got all over Mitch Keller early and often. They were taking pitches. They were taking balls that were called strikes in the first inning a couple different times. I'm sure Jazz Chisholm and Paul Goldschmidt would have some viable complaints against the umpiring there in the first inning, but it turned out not to matter too much for them. So that was really, really exciting to see. And point number 2 is Aaron Judge continues to be an absolute monster. And I think when you start to look at what he's been able to put together, it's tough to, after watching Aaron Judge for so long, you almost get spoiled. You get spoiled by just how good he is and just how consistent he is. Like, this is somebody that just seems to, he doesn't have month-long cold streaks usually. I know, what we saw last April was an anomaly. But he homers in this game, and it was his 1,000th game as a Yankee. Obviously, 1,000th game in the league. He hasn't played for anybody else. In game 1,000, he's now hit 321 home runs, which is tied for the most in Yankees history through the first 1,000 games with, of course, Babe Ruth. You may have heard of him. That's crazy. And you talk about putting that into some context and thinking about what that means. And obviously there's been advancements in bats. There's been advancements in training. There's been advancements in all sorts of things. The game is completely different from a physical standpoint than what, and even from a equipment and preparation and training and body composition standpoint than it was in Babe Ruth's era. Nobody's doubting that. But you know what it also is? More inclusive to all groups of people. And the velocity's never been higher. Spin rates have never been higher. The tricks that pitchers pull and are able to pull out on a given basis, and not just starters, but high-powered relievers coming out of the pen, all of this stuff has all massively gotten harder for hitters since Babe Ruth's era. And yet Aaron Judge was able to tie a Babe Ruth Yankees record. Also his 501st extra base hit, by the way, in 1,000 games. So that's more than an extra base hit every other game in his career on average. Through 1,000 games. It's crazy what he's doing. And obviously the Yankees are winning. They're blowing out a lot of these teams. You know, he wasn't the biggest reason why they won today. Obviously, it was nice to see him get that home run late. But, you know, this game was won before Aaron Judge left the yard. But I don't want that record to get passed over. Or even just as Yankees fans, sometimes we could be like, yeah, you know, like we know how good Aaron Judge is. We watch him every day. But sometimes you got to take a chance to sit back and think about what that actually means. 321 home runs, 1,000 games, tying Babe Ruth in 2025. It's pretty impressive. That's pretty damn impressive, even for Aaron Judge. And it's hard to get impressed by Aaron Judge stuff anymore because he seems to do it all the time, but that's pretty damn impressive. And then point 3 that I would like to talk about for this game before we start talking about the next series and little things that maybe went wrong in this game. And by next series, I mean next game, obviously. We're not going to talk about the Tiger series quite yet. Still 2 more games in Pittsburgh. But Max Fried looked really good in this game. 5 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned run off of a solo shot that he gave up. Curveball looked great in this game. And you kind of saw in the first game, I guess it was technically his first game, second game of the Yankees season, a little bit inconsistent. Showed some high flashes, showed some inconsistency. Even in a blowout, couldn't get through the 5th inning to get that, pitcher win. He gets that here today as he goes into the 6th. But even a lot of the hits he gave up, a lot of weak contact. And that's something we're going to get used to seeing from Fried. And it's going to put this Yankees infield, which should be better and has been better defensively, to the test. Because you're seeing a lot of weak contact, a lot of balls that don't leave the infield, a lot of balls that sometimes don't even get back to the mound off of Max Fried through his first 2 starts. And that's his MO. Weak contact is going to be what he's going to generate. So far, so good. Loved what he was able to do in this game. Loved the pitch mix from him. His curveball was really on point today and almost unhittable at times. And, except for the one, he threw kind of a meatball that hung up there in the zone to Brian Reynolds, and he took it deep. But other than that, he was excellent today. And that was exactly what you wanted to see. And we talked about this, yesterday's podcast about the importance of the Yankees winning these games with their high-priced guys on the mound like Rodon and Fried, and they've been able to do that. And that's been really they were able to do that here. They weren't able to do that the other day. But it puts them in a strong position now going forward to now you're 5-2. You have another game tomorrow. It's another, I guess it is another 4:05 start time. It's Bailey Falter and Marcus Stroman is on the mound for the Yankees. And we'll see if they can come back again. And I think at this point you've given a lot of guys now have gotten a little bit of off days here and there. You're still in the midst of a 9-day stretch here. Let's hope, by the way, first off, let's hope they get this game in. There's a lot of rain scheduled for Pittsburgh over the weekend, so let's hope they can get both these games in, period, but also reasonably on time. But I'm interested to see what you're going to do with the lineup now. And I want to see if Cody Bellinger comes back because, right now everybody, he's talking like it's fine. Boone's talking like it's fine. Everybody says it's fine. You start missing a second game, you start missing a third game, then I start to get a little bit worried. So it hasn't happened yet, but I would strongly like to see Cody Bellinger back in the lineup here before they leave Pittsburgh. I also start to be a little bit concerned that the back is going to be a problem. Other than that, I think this was an all-around solid game for the Yankees. I want to talk about the bullpen here before we really look too deep ahead, but this is what you wanted to see. these last two games are solid effort. Now, if you're going to make a knock, I would like to see the bullpen close out these blowouts as blowouts. And, Fernando Cruz struggled in this game in his third time out for the Yankees. Really, all this stuff comes in the seventh inning. Again, another seventh inning issue, which was an issue a couple games ago for the Yankees as well. But, in that seventh inning, again, you had the game in hand, so you're not going to freak out too much. But, Cruz comes into this game and comes into the sixth and gets a strikeout to end the inning, comes back out for the seventh, gives up a double, a strikeout, a single, and then a 3-run home run, and end up getting replaced by Hedrick. So I'd like to see a little bit better performance out of the bullpen, because there are going to be times where you're not going to have a 9-1 lead that you can afford to give up a 3-run home run, or you're not going to have the big lead like you had against Arizona in the series finale that they ended up hitting a grand slam and it didn't cost you the game. But you've now had 3 games this year where I want to look at this exactly. So you have your bullpen gave up a 3-run home run on Friday to the Pirates. They gave up a grand slam on Thursday to the Diamondbacks. And on Tuesday, they gave up a grand slam to the Diamondbacks. So in 3 of the last 4 games, your bullpen has allowed 2 grand slams and a 3-run homer. It's a little bit concerning. You're 2-2 in that stretch. Obviously, the Wednesday game against Arizona, there was the 4-3 game, but the game where the 4 runs came early, and then you get the Yankees get the 3-run home run in the 9th. But those other 3 games around that, on Tuesday the 1st, Thursday the 3rd, and Friday the 4th, your bullpen came in and gave up a grand slam, and a 3-run home run. Now, you won 2 of those games, and I venture to say you're probably not going to win 2 of 3 in those scenarios very often, but you won those games, but it's a little bit of a concern. So, it was Mark Leiter in the first game. It was Ryan Yarbrough in Thursday's game. It was Fernando Cruz in Friday's game. And I don't know if you take solace in that it's somebody different each time, or if it was just the same guy and you wanted to send him down. I don't know. It's a weird spot, but it's something they're going to need to correct going forward. Even before guys like Ian Hamilton, who we expect back next week, even before, Jonathan Loaizaga comes back, Scott Efros had a setback. He might not be coming back anytime soon, and he's still waiting on Jake Cousins. Even without those guys, we got to correct this. But the good news in the bullpen, though, is that Devin Williams was back and pitched a solid 9th inning. Just, again, 3 outs in the 9th, gave up 1 walk, had 1 strikeout. Nothing really to write home about. Wasn't a safe situation, obviously, but because he hasn't pitched since opening day, it was good to kind of get him back in the mix there. So, as we look ahead for the rest of this series, you got 2 more games here in Pittsburgh. They're going to be rainy games. You get Stroman and Warren on the mound in the next 2 games before you head over to Detroit. And we talked about it before. The goal in the 6-game road stand now is to go 4-2. So you're 1-0. Still need a winning record the rest of the way. I think if you go 4-2, you're feeling great. You go 5-1, you're feeling excellent. And obviously, you won the first game, 6-0 is still a possibility. But now your goal is you got lucky that you're avoiding Pittsburgh's best pitcher in this series, and I think that's going to be a huge, huge plus for them. And, I don't think we'll see what ends up happening with the Tigers series. I'm kind of looking at their guys now, and I don't believe, again, I am just looking very closely. Yeah, you're not going to avoid Skubal in the next series. So you're going to get the Cy Young pitcher in that Detroit series, but you're not going to have to worry about Skeens in this series. So at least you avoided one of the 2 on this road trip here, and it's going to be cold and potentially rainy again in Detroit. So not great weather for this road trip, but a great start so far. You're 1-0, and let's see if they come back tomorrow. And if they continue to get contributions throughout the lineup like they have been, this is going to be a really tough team to beat, because that's one thing. If you watch this team last year, late in the season in particular, but in the postseason at times, it did feel like once you got to the back half of the lineup, you didn't really have many expectations that the Yankees were going to score or be able to generate runs. And they won them this game, and it's been consistent. They've been getting contributions throughout the lineup. I'm glad Oswaldo had the big game. Like, he'd been the last guy that was, I scattered some hits here and there, but didn't have any home runs, didn't have any RBIs, didn't really have anything to put on the back of his baseball card to start the season. And he came through in a big way early in this game and gave the Yankees, a lead they would never relinquish. So 5-2, feeling pretty good if you're a Yankees fan right now, heading into the weekend. Get a split at worst here in Pittsburgh and then make your way to Detroit. That is the goal, but we will break down Saturday's game when it is all over. Marcus Stroman, Bailey Falter, and we will see who all gets in on the lineup and if the Yankees can continue this hot run. I mean, their offense is on fire right now, and if they can keep this offense going the way it is, you're not going to be as worried about the bullpen. But again, at some point, it's still early in the season. You got a lot of things you still got to tighten up. But the captain's rolling, the lineup's rolling, Fried's now rolling, Devin Williams is back. Things are looking up for the Yankees heading into the weekend.